curriculum and instruction, pupil personnel services and special education, and instructional technology and data. So our first part of the presentation is on curriculum instruction, and that will be presented by Deirdre Ammerling, the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the time tonight to present the instruction portion of the budget for school year 24-25, which includes pupil personnel services and technology. As always, we begin with Yorktown's vision statement, which you have seen many times over the past 7 years, as it represents all of our work for Yorktown students. This vision sets a path of clear expectations in planning for our students, curriculum, and programs. Along with implementing comprehensive academic programs, we strive to build empathy, creativity, and critical thinking, and work to provide multiple opportunities for students to explore varied areas of interest. I know our school community has seen the next slide many times, but it is important as it represents the overarching goal in Yorktown, that of educating the whole child. We know that all components of our K-12 program are important and valued as they contribute to the overall experiences of our students. Therefore, we continually look at providing enriching opportunities in all areas. We've just heard about some exciting happenings in athletics and co-curricular, and we will also address some of the other areas indicated here: academics, social emotional learning, the arts, etc. We begin with an overview of the organizational chart for instruction, as it reflects a team of over 550 dedicated faculty and staff that work collaboratively to support our students. While that is a large number, we truly work as a united team for our students and community. Our supervisors, Ms. Chesser for Humanities and Mr. Miller for STEM, have been critical in collaborating with staff in all buildings and moving our K-12 curriculum and instructional priorities forward. I just want to give them a very special thank you for their hard work and dedication. They are here tonight in the audience. This staffing list really encompasses our entire instructional team. It is our supervisors, directors, building administrators, all our teachers and assistants, counselors, nurses, library media specialists, clerical, etc. The list encompasses so many professionals. Each position here is so vital to supporting the needs of our students and truly educating the whole child. As part of the budget review process, we carefully evaluate the role of each individual to ensure that our students are being served most effectively. The goal of the curriculum department is to ensure that meaningful instructional programs are in place for all of our students. This work includes a carefully designed curriculum based on the New York State Learning Standards, the implementation of effective instructional strategies, and assessment practices to help guide teaching and learning. A wide variety of programs and services are in place to serve the needs of our students and support the whole child philosophy. We continue to partner with BOCES and Lyric as they provide valuable support to our work and in strengthening our programs. We have truly utilized their services, all that is listed here, and expertise throughout the year. This slide represents an overview of the services that are being utilized this year and are included in the budget for continuation next year. I wanted to take this time to provide some highlights of some of our work throughout the school year. We began our year day one with the focus on artificial intelligence. While this had some mixed emotions at the beginning, it has become a highly focused and exciting area, particularly at the secondary level, where the teachers have embraced how AI can be an incredible asset to teaching and learning. Teams of teachers have participated in both BOCES workshops and Lyrics Model Schools program to learn how best to leverage AI in the classrooms. The Model Schools work has been exciting as teachers have led the development of a project in their content area. This work is actually finishing up this month, and we look forward to presentations in April where teachers will celebrate and share with others highlights of their work and its impact on their program. We are looking to identify an AI platform that meets our data privacy needs and is user-friendly to both teachers and students. We are exploring platforms such as School AI and Magic School, and will include a larger group of teachers and administrators to make a final decision. We will then plan for rollout and professional development for our faculty. Earlier this year, you met Stephanie Conroy, who provided an overview of our new data platform, EduClimber, and how it assists us in evaluating student progress. EduClimber has been integral in moving our MTSS work forward, and I do want to thank Stephanie as she is invaluable to this work. We have developed data teams in each building and provided training to classroom teachers, administrators, reading specialists, and interventionists to increase a shared understanding of the data that is collected in order to identify appropriate interventions that support individual and small group instruction. There was a lot of buzz in the media and educational community around the science of reading, particularly in the early grades this year. We have always had a robust program in Yorktown through our curriculum and reading intervention programs. This year, we have spent a great deal of time looking at this body of research with the supports of consultants from Living Literacy Network. Our work has included looking at small group instruction, particularly around decoding and phonics at our elementary levels. Throughout this work, we have identified instructional resources that would benefit our students and have incorporated Lexia, a research and evidence-based program for all kindergarten and first grade students. Lexia is a digital program that has benefits for at-risk to advanced learners in a structured approach to phonological awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. Our K and first grade teachers have fully embraced it, and we look forward to expanding its use for all second grade students next year. Teachers know how to read student data, assign individual skills, provide direct instruction, and monitor student progress using this program. This year, we have also provided professional development to our kindergarten and first grade teachers and teaching assistants in the Heggerty Phonemic Awareness Curriculum. Heggerty focuses more on developing decoding and encoding skills, and it is a complement to our Foundations program, as Foundations focuses more on phonics, spelling, and handwriting. We have included our UPK teachers in this professional development and have provided them with the materials needed. We are really excited to see the gains of this work and its impact on our next year's kindergarten students. IXL is a digital resource that we have had for both math and ELA at all grade levels up through high school. This year, teachers have participated in updated professional development where they have focused on using IXL as a diagnostic assessment where they can assign key skills to individual students. STAR has been our universal screener for the past 9 years, and it provides a comprehensive view of student progress, achievement, and growth. We are looking forward to upcoming professional development next month to take a deeper dive into each component of the assessments. With this information, teachers can continue to address individual student skills and needs. We are in our second year of full implementation of TC Writing, kindergarten through grade 5. It has been exciting to attend the many celebrations of published student work and our teachers remark on a dramatic increase of students' understanding of the writing process and their excitement around writing. Ms. Chesser, our supervisor of humanities, works closely with each grade level to unpack each unit, enhance them through identifying mentor texts that reflect greater diversity in characters and authors, and reflect on assessment and practice. Innovation grants were an exciting addition this year, as they have encouraged our teachers to reflect on their program and look to increase student engagement, opportunities for learning, and provide unique experiences for our students. It was nice to see Mr. Videos and the students' presentation a little while earlier, and it reflects how the iGrants have created wonderful and enriching learning opportunities for the students. We are excited about the new courses offered at the high school this year in the areas of drones, sports medicine, and film as literature. The teachers presented earlier this school year as they were planning for the courses and are excited that they are now up and running and that students are benefiting from them. Computer science and digital fluency standards have continued to be a focus of work. Under the supervision of Mr. Miller, our supervisor of STEM, a guidance document for each grade level band has been created that identifies each standard and where it falls within our curriculum. Mr. Miller will provide additional review with the teachers in the coming months, and we are ready for the CSDF standards to be fully implemented in September. As we continue to plan for the 24-25 school year, there are key priority areas that we are excited about. We will continue to ensure the vertical and horizontal alignment of curriculum in all content areas. We look forward to continuing high-quality professional development in key areas such as the science of reading, eSTEAM, AI, and individualized instruction. We remain committed to the development and implementation of an MTSS plan that reflects both academic and behavioral supports. As mentioned earlier, our work in AI will continue to be a major focus, as will be the encouragement of the iGrants to enhance our programs. We look forward to exploring new courses, especially at the secondary level, primarily in the areas of world language and eSTEAM. We have begun a review of our language offerings and have observed a decline in students, particularly in the area of French. We continually look to see what our students are interested in, and there has been expressed interest by the high school in offering American Sign Language. This is also of interest at the middle school level. I do look forward to providing you with additional data in a future meeting that reflects this. We are looking forward to building new and meaningful courses at the middle school in eSTEAM and partnering with Project Lead the Way as a resource for developing these courses in areas that include robotics, coding, flight, and space to provide our students with invigorating and high-interest courses as they prepare for high school. So that concludes my portion of the presentation, and I would like to invite up Ms. Caroline Almeida, our Director of Pupil Personnel Services.
Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Hatter, Mrs. Carbone, Mr. Mignani, and trustees. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to talk about the Pupil Personnel Services Department and some budget considerations. The first slide shows our organizational chart, and we can see that there's a lot of different departments that fall under PPS. We have our school nurses and our special education teachers and occupational therapists, speech language pathologists, and many other providers, our social workers included. We have some staffing numbers here for you in terms of special education teachers. Currently, as of this year, 68.2, psychologists 9, one of which is funded through a grant. Social workers, we have 9, speech and language pathologists 12, occupational therapists and certified occupational therapy assistants 6. We have 9 nurses district-wide, including 1 nurse who's a one-to-one nurse. We have 118 certified teaching assistants, 2 full-time reading teachers in our department, and 2 full-time behavioral specialists. The next slide talks about the different numbers, and the most important thing I think to note on this chart is the trend that we see in terms of the overall numbers increasing in special education, as well as in what we refer to as 504. 504 serves students with disabilities, but not through special education. Many of the students on 504 plans receive related services and/or accommodations in the classroom. And what we can see here is that the numbers overall are growing each year. I left up on here the numbers from previous years because I wanted to show that trend. And a lot of people have asked if since COVID the numbers have been increasing, and they certainly have been, although not strictly due to that, I don't believe. We also have a number of students who move into the Yorktown School District from other school districts already with a 504 plan or an IEP in place. And so the bottom row on this chart shows the numbers of students who have transferred in. We have had 23 students transfer in this year. And the row just about above that shows the pending referrals. And we have a lot of students who are referred for evaluation. Some of those students go on to be classified and some don't. And so the number of current pending referrals is 69, and we do expect our overall number of classified students to grow by the end of the school year. And part of this increase is due to the number of students requiring services, but also what the numbers don't show is the complexity of the need that we see. And so while it wouldn't show up in a chart like this, we are also seeing a trend toward higher need with students. In previous presentations, we've talked a lot about the increase, particularly in the social emotional needs of students. And that's a trend that we continue to see rise. When we look to projections for next year, we always look to the trends, but we also look to the meetings that we have. It's our Section 504 meetings and our CSE and CPSC meetings that determine what services students receive. And so it's impossible to predict exactly what the needs will be because those are determined at the committee. But in general, we have a good sense of it and try to give the best estimate as possible. One thing that has remained constant in all of the years is the support of our Board of Education in our community. And that's been wonderful. And I think that a lot of people who do move here for our services cite that as a reason. So we're proud to have a good reputation, and we're proud of the work that we do to serve our students in our community. And it wouldn't be possible without all of us working together. This next slide talks about the continuum of services that we provide to students with disabilities. The New York State Education Department has what's known as the regulations of the commissioner. And those regulations determine what is referred to as a continuum of services. And we're proud to offer a full continuum of services here in Yorktown. We do have some students who receive services through general education, through the PPS department. We typically refer to those programs and services as building level supports, or building level interventions, including things like speech improvement services. We have related services, which are speech language therapy, counseling, physical therapy, occupational therapy, as well as some parent counseling and training, some vision services, hearing services, whatever related services students need. Many of our students, the majority of them, are served in a wonderful program called the Integrated Co-Teach program. That's the newest program that was added to the continuum of services. And in the Integrated Co-Teach program, we have a general education classroom with a general education teacher and a special education teacher working alongside each other to deliver instruction to all of the students in the class, including the specialized instruction that the students in that classroom who are special education require. And it's important to mention that there are a certain maximum number of students allowed in each of the programs, and that ratio is set by the New York State Education Department. So for instance, in an integrated co-teaching class, the maximum number of students with special education is 12. And we always look to have no more special ed students than general ed students within a classroom if possible. We have various special class programs here. Our most restrictive special class program in this district is the 812 program. It's a wonderful program that serves the needs of more severely disabled students, primarily on the autism spectrum. We also have a 1212 program and a 15-1 program. And as students get older, we see those ratios grow a little bit accordingly. We have resource room programs. We do have some students whose needs cannot be met within our own public school buildings for varying reasons. Sometimes we have one student in a cohort with a very particular profile and we need a specialized program for that individual. And other times we don't have the specialization needed to meet the needs of the students. And so for that reason, we may turn to another public school district or a BOCES program or a New York State approved private school to provide services for our students. And then sometimes we do have students who require a residential school if their needs are high enough. And sometimes home instruction or hospital instruction is required, preferably on short-term basis for both of those. We strive to meet the needs of our students within our school buildings whenever we can. And it's always a difficult decision when we need to look for a program outside of a school district for a student. And each year we meet for annual reviews for our students. And one of the things that we're looking to do is bring students back when and if we can. So if we have a program that can now meet the needs of the student, or if the student's needs have changed and we can now meet their needs in district, we'll revisit that each year at their annual review. For our students who are served out of district, we utilize the services of Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES most frequently. We have several students at Southern Westchester BOCES in various programs. Rockland BOCES serves 2 of our students currently. We have some students at other public school districts and some approved private day schools in the region. We do service some students who are parentally placed at private schools, most notably within our district boundary. We have the St. Patrick's Parochial School, and we serve 17 students there currently. We have 2 students at a yeshiva that we service as well. And as I mentioned earlier, we have some approved residential schools that we have students at. And our department arranges services as well as the meetings and the evaluations for all of the students every year, including the students who are placed at out-of-district programs. One of the needs that I mentioned has been increasing in recent years is the social emotional needs of students. And we do have a higher number of students who are requiring therapeutic supports. And although we have counseling and wonderful social workers and psychologists within our buildings, sometimes students need an environment that itself can be more therapeutic in nature. And that's the biggest rise that we've seen in recent years, is the number of students presenting with significant social emotional needs that require that level of therapeutic environment or setting. And so when we look to the students who are struggling within our schools right now, that's the biggest population. And so for that reason, we have an additional 16 students that we project will need an out-of-district placement over the next 12 months. I should mention that average tuition and transportation is approximately $80,000 per student. So if we were to send an additional 16 students out of district, it would come at a cost of just under $1.3 million. And the numbers, the rates, I should say, are not set by us. They're set and determined by New York State Education Department, depending upon the school and the program and their staffing. So it's not a negotiable number as we place students. And so for this reason, I've been working with our central administration and our building principal, Mr. DiGennaro at the high school, and our wonderful team of clinicians at our high school to help identify some students who fall into this category and to think about what we can do innovatively to create a program here in district to meet the needs of these students. And what that would essentially take is building a new program that we don't currently have that would be a therapeutic program for students. And so I'm excited to present that to you. One of our high school teachers terms it the FlexPath program. And as soon as we heard that name, we loved it. And so I wanted to tell you a little bit about our proposal for the FlexPath program. And before I do so, I just want to back up a step and say that the students who would be appropriate for this program are students who have challenges that impact their academic progress as well as their social emotional well-being. And these challenges could stem from a variety of factors: trauma, anxiety, depression, learning disabilities, and difficulties with social interaction. And what sets a therapeutic program apart from more traditional programs is its integrated and more flexible approach. And in this particular case, for the program that we're proposing, we would be looking to blend academic online instruction with tailored, individualized, social emotional therapeutic supports for every student in the program. It is our hope that we can open this program in September of 2024. And in doing so, we believe that we can keep many of those 16 students in district. I should point out that of the 16 students that we project will need therapeutic settings, not all are high school students. This FlexPath program is proposed at the high school level for next year. There are other students in need of therapeutic programs who are younger. When we look to create a program, we're looking for a certain number of students that makes the program viable, and we're also looking for other factors that we can count on to support the students. We don't want to run a program if we can't adequately support the needs of our students within that program. And so programs are carefully planned, and this particular program, FlexPath, would utilize some of our existing staff as well as some new staff, and it would require repurposing a space. Currently, the space that houses the Pupil Personnel Services Department at the top of the main campus, the modular buildings known as the Support Services Building, would be an ideal spot, we think, for this program. So there would be some costs for some minor renovation to that space and for some furniture needs and some other needs to get the program up and running. And in terms of staffing for the program, we are estimating our total costs to run this program at $650,000 for the year. And that's in the first year. And it would be more in the first year because of the cost of the renovation of the space and the furniture needs to set up the program. We would look to have a psychologist or a social worker with the program full-time to provide the DBT support and other therapeutic supports and counseling, 2 special education teachers with the program, 1.4 of which would be a new position, 0.6 would be an existing staff member from the high school, physical education at a 0.1, a teaching assistant, who's already in the program, so that would be a reassignment, and the cost of the online programs. And we'd be looking at different platforms for online learning to make sure that the needs of all of the students can be met, because we understand that not every student learns best on a specific online learning platform. And something else that's important to note as we consider this program for next year is that we added a new program a year or 2 ago called the BRIGHT program. And that BRIGHT program was designed as a transition back to school program. So it's a therapeutic short-term support for students who perhaps are hospitalized and then returning to school and need a transitional therapeutic support program in between. And that program, the BRIGHT program, would essentially merge with this FlexPath program. And so we would still offer the BRIGHT program. We would still have that support, that critical support there for students as they transition from a mental health crisis back into our school. And while also serving, we'd imagine, up to 14 other students at a time. The YES program is a program at the high school that's been very successful as well and works with students who struggle with executive functioning skills, things like organization and planning. And so we would incorporate the YES program and the FlexPath program as well, so that the students who are currently taking advantage of the support of YES and Bright would still be served in this program. While also it would be a placement on an IEP for special ed students who needed a therapeutic setting, and additionally could support the needs of general ed students who were also in need of such a program. One of the other resulting effects is that if we build the program in the support services building, that would displace the pupil personnel services department. And so we would look to repurpose some of the space over at the French Hill School for the purpose of housing the PPS department. So there are some considerations in the budget for next year for the repurposing and the minor remodeling of both spaces. So as we look at the budget for 24-25, we're focused on the creation of this innovative FlexPath program for our students, while also ensuring that the needs of our larger population of students with disabilities is met through programs that we already have, including expansion of some current programs. One of the programs that we do want to expand is the science program at the high school for students with disabilities. We do see a need for more options in special ed there, as well as an additional special class math program, or a period of math special class in the middle school. We are mindful of our continuum of services. We feel a great commitment to meeting the needs of all of our students. We're also mindful that tuitions for out-of-district placements not only are growing in number, but the cost for those programs goes up by about 3% every year. So that's another factor to consider. The need for evaluation for students has gone up considerably in recent years. There's an assessment that we often do for students who are at risk called a risk assessment, and it looks at how much risk students are at in terms of their social emotional needs, and our social workers and psychologists spend a lot of time with students and families assessing those needs. We've done threat assessments this year, psychological evaluations, psychiatric evaluations, functional behavioral assessments. A functional behavioral assessment is a tool that's used to look at some concerning behavior that a student is demonstrating and to get to the root of what is causing that behavior, and then to develop both proactive and reactive strategies to reduce and eliminate those behaviors. We also have an increase in the number of meetings and the complexity of meetings and the overall complexity of the work that we do in the PPS department. And as we look ahead to next year, we do have some priorities that we focus on. The majority of these things are focuses that we continually look at each year, which I think is important for our department as it evolves to meet the changing needs of our community. We continue to monitor the CSE process and work collaboratively with the other departments and buildings for pre-referral intervention data and strategies, evaluation of students, timeliness of evaluations, timelines of those evaluations, and the process of monitoring students' progress after they're classified as well. We continue multi-year planning as we evolve to meet the needs of our changing students. We evaluate new programs such as the Bright program and look to see how we can make those programs even more beneficial as we move forward. In this case, merging it with FlexPath we think is a great idea that would magnify the effect of both programs for students, and it makes sense to house them together. We look to provide initial and recertification training in nonviolent crisis intervention to our staff, and doing updated training and threat assessment for our teams, as well as risk assessment training. And we look at space. You know, we work with the central office administrators and the building principals to prioritize the space for our students. And the one thing I will mention here is that it's not always the case that every student is educated in their own homeschool building. We have 2 elementary schools that serve K-3 children, Brookside and Mohansick, and they're both wonderful schools. But we can't have every program always every year in both buildings, either because of space reasons or because of the numbers of students who need a program. If we have 3 students at Mohansick in first grade and 4 students at Brookside in first grade, it doesn't always make sense to run 2 programs, 1 in each building. There are years where we may run a grade level of a program or an entire program in one building and not the other. And so there are instances where a student may have to leave his or her home school and attend school in another building. And I think that'll be the case for next year as well. And we take those decisions very seriously, and constantly look to see what we can do better, how we can improve, and how we can shift our thinking and what we do to better meet the needs of all of our students. Thank you for your time tonight. And Ms. Forsberg is going to come up next to speak about technology and data.
What did you do? Do you want to sit down to present?
No, I can.
Are you sure?
I can lean on my other side.
Why don't you just, you can sit down at the table if it's easier.
Good evening, everyone. So I look forward to talking about the technology and data programs here in the district. With a relatively small technology and data staff, we're able to manage a state-of-the-art technology infrastructure that provides access to an ever-growing number of digital tools for over 4,000 users, as well as our families. This year, we are staffed with 1 technician per school building, which has helped with faster service to our faculty, staff, and families. The additional support also helps with our phone needs, security camera system, print management system, and day-to-day operations, including cybersecurity monitoring and instructional programs. I do want to take a moment to thank our 5 technicians, 2 data analysts, 2 instructional technology coaches, and our IT department assistant. We truly function as a problem-solving team all day long. There is very little that happens in our district that does not involve either the network and/or access to the internet during the school day, after school, and into the weekends. Much of the environment has not changed this year. However, there are continual upgrades and updates that are necessary to keep the district up to date. Updates this year include safety and security enhancements, additional security cameras, wireless casting technology, and more shared spaces and classrooms. This is year 3 of our MacBook Air pilot for teachers using one for their device, and we have around 200 teachers and administrators who are using the MacBook. We have been able to continue this dual platform scenario and will go into year 4 next year. The list of software on this slide and the next 2 slides are just a sample of the many software tools that our department supports and manages to keep the district safely connected. Many different types of technology outside of the instructional software tools are supported by our team. It is fair to say we support every single department with their software and any necessary integrations with our data team and single sign-on. Here is a small sample of some of the over 200 apps, Chrome extensions, and software that are supported by the district. All software extensions and apps are vetted through an approval and review process which has been in place for 5 years. The review process ensures smooth communication, budget planning, and approving vendors against Educational Law 2D data privacy regulations. A full list is available on the website on the data page as well as the technology page. I apologize for the small print. This will be on the website if you would like to review further. The review of cybersecurity upgrades. Cyber attacks continue and have increased specifically in the K-12 space. Unfortunately, the K-12 environment is not able to escape phishing and malware attacks. With the increase in a variety of cyber attacks in our area and nationally, we continue to upgrade and maintain our security fabric to include a host of tools with upgraded analytics, monitoring, and protection. Additionally, the district has contracted with consultants, user groups, and other vendors to conduct a series of testing and vulnerability scans, as well as consulting with experts for cyber strategy planning. I personally receive 1 to 3 emails a day of different sites to block, domains to block, and other necessary security updates, which has increased dramatically in the past couple of years. Highlights from this year include little to no network downtime. I wanted to say no network downtime. I really couldn't think of a time that we were down, but it feels like we might have been for a little bit, but I really couldn't think of any time. We've had little to no network downtime unless it was planned for projects, and they usually take place after hours or during the school breaks. Our help desk, which is data technology together, we have worked through over 8,000 tickets since July 1st. These tickets are opened by staff, students, or families to ask for all kinds of support. Everyone in our department has access to the ticketing system, and oftentimes one of these tickets will use multiple people to collaborate and solve. While some take 30 seconds, others may take a few days due in part to more research or a part that needs to be ordered. Some examples include preventative maintenance tickets to check for backups and down access points, teacher one-to-one support in the classroom, e-school data support, software support, and managing our Chromebook one-to-one program. One of our instructional technology coaches launched the new kindergarten through third grade eSteam Playdates very recently. These were teacher-centered, hands-on learning experiences facilitated by her in the 2 buildings. These sessions promoted collaboration, experiential learning, and professional growth in the educational technology space to support the eSteam program for our youngest learners. We are continually looking at our 911 system to make sure it's always working. We do periodic testing, and we were able to do some updates this year, which will have better location knowledge to the 911 call center and will allow them to call back into the classroom directly or an office, wherever the call comes from. We field tested CBT in a simulation with success. This was in collaboration with Ms. Ammerling's department, our data team, and the buildings. Students had the devices they needed, and the infrastructure was able to support. We are currently in the process of a few different data integration projects, which include what's called OneSync, so it's how student accounts are created and maintained, as well as an updated online system for food services. These types of collaboration projects involve 8 to 10 people and are done over a series of 6 to 12 weeks with mini deadlines along the way. And last year, we did a soft launch of Vivi, which is a screencasting device built for education. Think of having less wires and easier ways for people to cast right to the screen from any device. We had a soft launch last year, and this year we have it in place in 60 different classrooms and offices. And priorities for next year. To continue the Chromebook one-to-one program, K-12. Our team continues to support the entire district with these technical and data needs. As we look forward to next year, we plan to maintain the Chromebooks that was established after 2020, and next year will include phasing in the touchscreen Chromebooks. In addition, specialized classroom spaces that are in their device replacement cycle will have newer technology to support the curriculum that requires installed software. This is part of the regular and planned replacement cycle. The replacement cycle of devices is typically every 4 to 5 years, but it's dependent on the technology changes and the needs. In order to further the physical security and safety in our buildings, our PA system in each building is aging and needs to be upgraded. There's also many hardware and software integrations on the horizon for building safety and security. Last year, during this time, I presented a 5-year network and infrastructure refresh plan that includes updates, maintenance, and upgrades. This is year 1, so next year is year 2 of that planned program. which includes replacements and upgrades to switches, camera servers, other servers, and updating our firewall. As I shared earlier, cybersecurity and data privacy continue to be a priority, and in order to ensure we're doing the best that we can, I'm involved with a cohort of other tech directors, as well as a cybersecurity cohort, which includes one-to-one support and group meetings, so I always know what's going on in the region, but I also have support just for our district. User groups, in-person and remote, we do different phishing expeditions and ongoing training. We launched Droplet this year to move many of our paper forms into the digital space that includes proper routing and approval process, and we plan to roll that out more next year. And last but not least, as Ms. Amberling touched on before, we're continually researching and looking into leveraging AI to enhance district operations in all areas, that, including security and curriculum and instruction. Thank you.
Okay, so now I will review the budget summary for this, for the instructional program. So there are a lot of numbers on this slide, so we will go through all of them, I promise you. So I just want to take a moment and remind everyone once more that these numbers are not final and that they're still subject to change. There's still one important piece of the budget that is outstanding, and that is state aid. The state's budget is due April 1st, but it seems more and more likely that it will be late, perhaps by several weeks. The final state budget will impact the district's final budget, which will not be accepted by the board until April 15th. Hopefully we'll have the budget numbers from the state before then, but it looks like it's going to be tight. Also, all department categories on the slide include salaries, equipment, contractual services, BOCES services, and supplies and materials for each category. Overall, the instructional program is increasing by 2.4%. You'd see that on the bottom line. So included in the curriculum and development department is the Office of the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, which contains all professional development expenses district-wide and the cost of any new initiatives. The supervision line includes the principal's offices at all 5 buildings. It also includes our security expenses, including our SROs at each school building. That expense is increasing by $50,000 for next year. The cost of the new AP, the proposed AP for the FlexPath program, is also represented in this line. If you look at the teaching regular school line and the program of student with disabilities line, you can see that it looks like some money has shifted from one line to the other, and that would actually be due to some reclassifications that we made this year of some teachers, CTAs, and TAs from the general education budget codes to special education budget codes. These reclassifications are important because it increases the accuracy of the financial data that is reported to the state each year and can impact how our state aid is calculated. So it's not necessarily that anything was added or taken away from one line or the other. It's just we discovered a teacher was coded to general education, should have been coded to special education, so we corrected that. Of the 11 teacher retirements that the district has for next year, 10 of them are from the area of general education, and several of them are currently not budgeted to be replaced due to enrollment changes. Only one teacher retirement is from the area of special education. Also in the general education line is a contingency for an additional kindergarten teacher at Brookside. Additional FTEs are also proposed in the areas of science and music at the middle school. The equipment codes overall have been reduced by about $50,000, and the contractual service codes have been reduced by about $60,000, mostly because of middle states, which is a process we're going through this year. We don't need to budget for that for next year. In our programs for students with disabilities line, One teaching position that was previously funded by one of our COVID grants is now included in the general fund. So these were positions that were hired using the federal money from COVID to add to our programs, and that funding is no longer happening for us next year. This September is the end of it. So that position has to be incorporated into the regular budget. Also included in this line are the cost of the proposed FlexPath program, a contingent special ed teacher at Mohansick, and a special ed science teacher at the high school, which is replacing 5 existing overages, as Caroline Almeida previously discussed in her slides. This line also includes all of our special education CTAs that are IEP mandated and out-of-district tuition costs. The next line is occupational education, and this is the cost tuition for our high school students to attend the career and technical education programs at Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES. The increase is due to increased enrollment in these programs. We have more students going out. Library and AV includes the cost of library automation systems and all databases district-wide. Educational television includes the cost of recording Board of Education meetings and other performances. Computer-assisted instruction includes all of our software and hardware purchases, technology infrastructure, technical support contractors through EduTech, and other BOCES services. Increases include Glowforge for $28,000, the upgraded PA systems in 4 of our buildings for $35,000, and some BOCES services, approximately $130,000. Guidance includes all guidance counselors at the high school and middle school, including a student intervention counselor at the high school. Health services includes the cost of all nurses district-wide and at St. Patrick's, and the district physician. It also includes the cost of health and welfare services charged by other school districts for private schools that our students attend in those districts. Psychological services includes all psychologists district-wide, including a proposed psychologist for the FlexPath program. Social work services includes all social workers district-wide, and the pupil personnel services line includes the Office of the Director of PPS, including all related administrators and clerical staff. So overall, the summary shows that the program is increasing by 2.4%, a $1.6 million increase from last year's budget to this year's budget. And the final slide, I'm sorry, I'm working 2 things here. So our next budget presentation is next week with Dr. Hatter's final superintendent budget presentation, and the board will adopt on April 15th.
Thank you. That was a lot of information to absorb.
Information.
So do you want to bring anybody up? Well, do we have everybody? Who do we need up here? Oh, Caroline.
up.
Thank you very much, though. Lisa, do you want me to start again with you?
Sure. So the instructional budget is increasing by 2.4%, but the athletic budget is increasing by more than 3 times that, 7.6. And that concerns me somewhat, because I think that we should be directing our funds towards instructional, because that's what we're in the business of, educating children, not creating athletes. So I am a little concerned about that disproportionality. Can you address that a little bit? Why one is increasing 3 times more than the other?
Yeah, I'll start and then Lisa can continue. Part of the increase for this year, we budgeted for half of a strength and conditioning coach with the last year around this time, we were adding the position. We agreed it would start mid-year, and we agreed it would start mid-year because we wanted to allocate some monies to be able to hire school resource officers for our elementary schools. So the first, I would say 50% of that increase to the athletic budget is solely to fulfill the remainder of that strength and conditioning coach, so that that's no additional programming or any additional expenditures outside of the position that we had discussed prior year. The additional items from there are with regard to modified sports, if we decide to move forward with the modified sport offerings and some of the equipment requisitions that are made in Rob's budget, whether it's hurdles or mats for the track and field team, football equipment, field hockey equipment, and then finally there are contractual increases for the coaches that account for the remainder of the budget increase. Lisa, if I left anything out, please.
Well, I should just point out that does include the cost of modified, right? So
Yes,
that's,
yeah.
yeah, you said that.
Part of it. Yeah, but it's certainly something that I'll look at as I take into account all of the requests that were made, because there were a lot of requests, whether it's from technology or PPS or the instructional budget or athletics and each of the school buildings. So I'll certainly take that balance under consideration when I present to you my final presentation next week.
Thank you.
Cheryl?
This question is for Ms. Almeida. You had indicated that there is an increase in SEL needs at this point. And it looks like we're doing a lot to service on the back end. What are we doing on the front end? And not only for special ed, but for gen ed, so that, I guess my question is, potentially, could we have a situation where if we did more and bulked up on the front end, would we eliminate some of the back end needs in students in crisis?
Yeah, and I think about that often, and it's one of the things that I spend a lot of time researching. One of the things that we do is we look at the whole child, and so we have our social emotional learning curriculum built in every grade level in every classroom. We also have a lot of building level supports built in, provided primarily by our social workers in the different buildings. And I think that prior to COVID, I was doing more in terms of working with the county, through the county executive's office, in terms of looking at things like technology use in young children. We still, even now, partner with different organizations like NAMI. We have the network. We actually lead a network in this region of community service providers and community agencies that are designed to help support people in the community. We partner with different hospitals. We have the Northern Westchester Hospital coming in to meet with us at our next meeting to talk about a program that they're planning on opening. So we continually look to see what we can do to help support our community. Education is a big piece of that. I think in the future, one of the things that I would like to do is to devote more time and attention toward raising awareness in the community on things that parents, especially new parents, can do to help support children more. Wellness is really important, diet, exercise. We're still seeing a lot of students struggling at a younger age with different behaviors, helping parents to understand the reasons why students might be struggling, looking at trauma, looking at response to trauma, understanding that cycle, and really working with parents more collaboratively and all of our staff to help the staff at every grade level and every building understand what trauma may look like in a classroom, and being able to identify a student who's struggling as a student in need, and not necessarily as a student who is easily redirected. The needs are more complex than that now. So a lot of it has to do with the training that we provide for our staff and the community resources that we have and utilize within our network.
Thank you.
Rashmi?
I have a question for Ms. Forsberg. So in looking at the long list of items and priorities, I guess my question is, are these mainly just upgrades and maintenance and, keep the lights on kind of things, or are any of these what you would consider investments?
The majority of the items listed are ongoing replacements, upgrades, and maintenance, which I think is an investment to keep the technology going and the best infrastructure we can have, the students learning with whatever device, tools, or software that they need. There isn't anything on here in particular that's new, other than building safety and security type upgrades and different hardware, software, technology integrations that come along with that as we move into the future, which I think is an investment.
Okay, thanks.
Mike?
My question would be somewhat similar to Reshmi's. First, just an observation. The current program that you've put together for us on a technology basis is truly staggering, and the upgrades, I think, have been equally as important. I guess my question is, within this, is there any additional need for staffing in your department, or are you strictly relying on what you have now and doing more with, technology?
In all honesty, I think it would be helpful to have an additional support to help with all the cybersecurity management. There's a lot that goes into it that I do personally, and then the technicians, of course, do some of that, but I think it would be helpful to have more support in that area specifically.
Okay, thanks.
Catalina?
My question to Ms. Almeida. So without the flex program, then that could increase the budget by $500,000 if we're going to send our students out of district, right? Because this budget has the flex program.
This
within it.
budget doesn't, the proposal is in there for the Flex Path program, including the costs for the first year, which would be the startup cost of the renovations for the facilities and the furniture for it. So in the first year, the program would cost $650. In subsequent years, it would cost less than that, while the cost for the out-of-district tuitions is approximately $80,000 per student and growing at a rate of 3% per year. This program, and forgive me if I didn't mention it before, is designed to serve students in grades 9 through 12. So we anticipate that this will be a successful program. We're committed to it, and if it passes, and we project that in the future it will serve the needs of more students who are right now perhaps in the middle school. So long term, I think it's difficult to project how much it will save us on a budgetary standpoint, and perhaps even more important from that is the commitment that we have to our students and our family to meet their needs and to do so here in our district, close to home, which also results in some other costs that maybe are hard to realize through the presentation, such as transportation. If we were to send all of these students to out-of-district programs, those programs are throughout the region, including in some cases in Rockland County. And so when we have our students here, we're not only servicing them close to home and in their community, and we think we can do it really well, but we're also saving tuition costs and even transportation costs.
Do you have any out-of-district students that you'd be bringing back for this program?
I love that question, and as we meet with the clinical team at the high school to identify students that we are building this program for, we are remiss as we think about the students who have already gone out of district who would be a good fit for this program. And we are anticipating that there's at least one, if not two, students that may return as early as September to this program, with an eye perhaps in the future on bringing some other students back.
Thank you.
So, first of all, Caroline, I just want to thank you. Your presentation, you speak with such kindness and thoughtfulness towards all the students, and that's just so nice to hear, so thank you. Not that any other special ed has ever spoken any other way, but you just have such a nice delivery, so thank you. If we put in the FlexPath program, it means that PPS goes to French Hill, which is quite a distance away from the main campus and all the other central office. So how does that work for you?
It would be a shift for us, but me and my entire team of staff up at the PPS office have always put the needs of the students first. And while it may be a little bit more challenging to get in the car on a rainy day and drive the 5 minutes down the road and to come here multiple times a day, it would be a pleasure to do that if it meant that our students could have the program that they need here on their home campus.
Thank you. Lisa?
Ms. Emmerling, how are the new courses for the high school chosen? And are there new courses in the works for the next school year?
They really do come from the teachers and working with the students. They really don't come from me or my office. It really is born from the teachers interacting with students, looking at interests in their own respective areas, knowing what's out there, what fields students should be getting ready for after high school. In terms of looking at the development of the eSTEAM courses that we want to see for the middle school, that also was largely driven by teacher interest, and there wasn't a lot of continuity, certainly horizontally or vertically. So in the development of that one was where I certainly did get a little bit more involved in just trying to think and plan for giving all of those students the same type of experiences so that when they go and they reach these high school courses, that they're ready for those demands and that they're able to access and have the skills that they need for readiness. So largely a lot of it is just kind of like organic, and it comes out of interest. In terms of looking at the language, it was a conversation that I had with Erin Fink, guidance counselor over at the high school, who said that she had been for a couple of years thinking about how beneficial American Sign Language and how often that has come up. And it just seems like a lot of things kind of came together at once. I know she won't mind me sharing because she's so passionate about it, but Ms. Chesser lives in the deaf community as her sister is deaf, and sign language has been a big part of her family's life. And she shares that openly because, again, through conversations with different teammates in the buildings, you have this growing interest around something. And we partnered with some colleagues in Ossining and spoke to some people in White Plains and just saw how some of this has grown in their communities and the need for those things. So sometimes they happen just organically and through conversation. Oftentimes it's teachers presenting to us things that they've heard from our students that they're interested in.
And then those teachers who express that interest, are they the ones who then pilot the course? Or do you bring someone in from the outside to do it? Like the sports medicine course, I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't even know we had that. That's amazing.
Yeah, that definitely was driven by teachers that were interested. So, working with the building principals, looking at teachers' schedules to see would it allow for it. Oftentimes they find the way because they definitely want to deliver these high interest areas to the students. So they do look to accommodate as much as possible. I've not heard of a course offering over the last couple of years where it was a no, we can't do that because you don't have room in your schedule. I think they're very creative at times to look to find that flexibility in a program, even if they're running something just for maybe one semester to see what the student is and the continued interest would be in that area.
All right, thank you.
Cheryl?
Staying on the same topic, I had a question on the new courses at YHS this year. Do we have any data surrounding the enrollment in those three classes?
We do. Some of the classes are a little bit smaller, and the drone class grew from a club and developed into a course. That one is small right now. It's 4 students, but I do believe that it will grow because it's just been so well received. It's exciting. It's new. It's innovative. The course Sports is Medicine that had a larger showing. It was 12 students. And then the Film is Literature had 28 students register.
Wow.
So that was really interesting to see that
Yeah.
one. But I think as the courses grow, as students hear about them,
Sure.
and they look to see what fits within their program. I think sometimes our students would love to take a lot of things, but it just doesn't actually fit, whether it's in the schedule or it's what are the other courses that they're taking.
Yeah, some of the subjects take a few years to take root.
Yeah.
so- Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, wonderful, thank you.
Reshma? Mike?
Ms. Almeida, the FlexPath program is something that's just being rolled out tonight, obviously. Can you speak to 2 things? One is Is this something that is being done elsewhere? In other words, is it a sort of an established program that we're bringing in? And then I see that a lot of the teaching or learning that goes on in it is online courses. So can you just kind of speak to how that works?
Yes, and thank you for those questions. I probably should have spoke a little bit more about those two pieces when I was talking. The program would be, the FlexPath program would be considered both an alternative program and a therapeutic program. And previously in this region, most of our alternative programs were not therapeutic programs. And likewise, most of our therapeutic programs were not alternative programs. And one of the drawbacks of and either of those types of programs, but especially a therapeutic program, is having the flexibility to be able to build a student's schedule around their needs while also serving students in a grade 9, 10, 11, 12, and having the staff to be able to teach the classes. And so if you were to have in-person instruction, a live teacher, you would need a tremendous amount of staffing, because you might have one student in a Global 9 class and you might have 2 students in Global 10, while you have 1 student in economics and you have 3 students in English 9 and 4 students in English 10, but the students in English 10 can't all take English at the same time. And so the logistics of trying to staff the instructional part of that program makes it cost prohibitive to run the program. And the other thing that has failed with a lot of the alternative programs is the flexibility of it has to be a certain type of flexibility. And a lot of the alternative programs that I've been familiar with over the past 31 years have been flexible in perhaps what I would describe as the wrong ways. Whether, allowing children to make unhealthy choices or allowing unhealthy choices to be acceptable, and that type of flexibility. In this program, what would really set it apart is that the flexibility would be between 2 or 3 healthy choices. So it may be your schedule. Perhaps in the morning, you really need to start off your day with counseling before you can get into your academics. And maybe you need the flexibility to do your English curriculum a little bit slower, and you might finish in 14 months instead of 10 months. Somebody else might move through math curriculum faster. You may be the type of student who likes to do long blocks of learning, math for 2 hours straight, and then take a break and then do science for 2 hours straight, versus a student who might like 45 minutes of this class and then might like 45 minutes of that class. And this program, the way it would be built, would serve students who need an alternative approach. It would provide all of the therapeutic supports that students need, including DBT, which is a specific type of group counseling, distress tolerance building, coping mechanisms for students, which would be so critical in helping them on their path to wellness. And it would include a lot of other more flexible but healthy options. And I think the best way to describe it is if I talk to you about the BRIGHT program that we have now in our high school that we're so proud of. We have a BRIGHT program where students go oftentimes for maybe 3 or 4 days as they're transitioning back from Four Winds Hospital or another hospital. This is a flexible but very supportive and structured center where they can go. It's calming, it's relaxing, there's some therapeutic support in there, and they can work on their classes, reacclimate to the school, and then move into their other classes. And I can't tell you how many of the students who have utilized that support have said the same thing. If only I could stay in here all day, every day. Because for a lot of students, the larger school setting with the bigger classes and the more structured day isn't always right for them. If you're in the middle of a social issue or an emotional crisis, it's very hard to sit and go, well, you know what, it's third period and you have to go to English. It's very hard to go to English and sit there and concentrate when really what you need is in the moment counseling. So this program gives kids the flexibility to have the counseling that they need when they need it right there. and it gives them the flexibility to build their day when they need it. And an important part, although it is online instruction, we are looking into different platforms for that. Eduseer, Fusion Academy, and other programs to make sure that the online instructional piece is right for every student who's in there, because there are some students in there who struggle academically and have learning disabilities and do need more support with their academics. And that's where the support of the special education teachers in the program would come in handy and would be essential too for those students. They would provide consultant teacher direct support and resource room support as needed for the students in that program, so that anything that needs to be modified from the online platform for that student could be modified specifically for that student academically. And I think there's a number of things that would make our program differently, and that, I think, highlights some of them.
Sorry, just
Go
a
ahead.
follow-up. I mean, to me, it's fascinating approach. I guess I'm still trying to understand, is this something you created, or is this something that's being done elsewhere that we're going to try to, copy, or so to speak?
It's not something that's being done elsewhere. It is something that I worked with the team at the high school on, along with a vision that I've had for many years. I don't know what other people do in their spare time. I'm probably not going to make myself sound too good here, but I spend my spare time looking at research and looking at what I know has worked and what hasn't worked, and trying to put the pieces together of the things that have worked. What we have right now in Yorktown is a clinical team that's beyond what most districts have. And we have a need that's beyond any need that we've ever seen before. So if we have the resources, we have the people, we have the techniques like DBT, and we can merge that all together, I think we can have a really successful program. And more than anything, I think what I've looked at is what hasn't worked in other alternative programs, and what hasn't worked in some therapeutic settings. And so when we look at everything that we know that does work and everything that we know that doesn't work, and we make all of these things our priority, I don't see how we can't be successful, especially when we're committed to a process of evolving and looking at what we're doing and auditing ourselves to make sure that we make the adjustments that we need to continue to meet the needs of our students. And I'm really excited about the opportunity for this program.
One more.
Go ahead.
This is probably more for the rest of the panel, but again, this is incredibly complex and fascinating approach. How are we gonna get this off the ground by September, I guess, is where I'm looking at it and saying, wow, this is a lot to try to do and accomplish in a relatively short period of time. So if we could speak just a little bit to how we plan on accomplishing that, that'd be great.
I'll start, and then the team can weigh in. I don't think anybody on this dais here has any question, and even our team in the audience, we have members of our central administration team in the audience as well. I don't think anyone has any even question or concern on if we can do it. I think we all believe we can do it, and we'll be able to do it, provided that we have your approval to move forward in the budget process, and it's something that I'll present next week. But it's a matter of coordinating a bunch of different departments, all who are ready, willing, and able. It's getting facilities up and running and getting them ready to move the physical plant. It's getting the instructional technology ordered, which I know Jen's department can do and can do seamlessly. It's getting the staffing in place, which I know Caroline and her team will be working toward that. And there's a very motivated group of clinicians who stand at the ready to support the program. So it is a big lift, Mike, without question. It's a big lift, and it's not a program that we can look at other districts for a model. There are therapeutic programs, there are alternative programs. This is an innovative approach in bringing those two together. So we don't have a lot in the way of mentorship to go by, but I do think that we have a good vision and a good plan that's grounded in research that will require some financial investment that I do believe will be offset by retaining children within our district and avoiding the out-of-district tuition payment. But I wouldn't put it past this team to have this up and running for September. If anyone else wants to add on that, I believe that we'll be able to get this done without a problem. I think we'll have it done by July.
Catalina?
So thinking of the flex plan and talking about the course offerings in the high school, will we be able to offer, and for general education students and special education students as a whole that are not on the AP track, will there be any course offerings either in the flex or in the high school for students, general education, special education, to get college credit? Do we have that now, and or will that be a part of that flex plan?
Well, the instruction, the core instruction will be online, so
Online.
I would think that an opportunity could exist if a student had the ability to do that and the desire to do that. I couldn't see why not.
And I guess that's it. Do we have that in the high school?
There were college credit-bearing courses that are offered at the high school. In fact, they are looking at exploring anatomy and physiology, which currently is a one-semester course, to become a year-long so that students could earn a college credit from SUNY New Paltz. So they're constantly looking at ways to increase and have our students have that little leg up when they go to college.
I have a question for Lisa. So I know last 2 years, you've been doing a lot of recoding, and I understand the recoding because it helps with the state aid runs, but at some point, will we be done with the recoding so we can do a comparative year to year? Because it's very difficult the way it is now.
No, I agree. I understand that completely. And yes, my hope is that we've gotten the majority of it by this point. I can't promise that there's not going to be one or two things, but I think in terms of the big stuff, the big numbers, I feel like we've gotten a pretty good handle on that. So I'm hopeful that going forward we'll be consistent.
Right, and just so the community understands, different codes have different state aid ratios, is that correct?
Well, I mean, it's part of that, but it's the calculation. It's the different areas of your finances that they pull data from when they make these calculations. And it makes a difference if something's coded as a general ed expense versus special ed expense. So we just want to make sure that it's right, so that for consistency as well as making sure that we're getting all the aid that we're entitled to.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Lisa?
Nothing else, thank you.
Cheryl?
I'm set, thanks.
Rashmi? Mike? Catalina? Thank you all very much. We appreciate it.